Eric Sundergaard with Armstrong. I'm the Architectural Specialties Installation Manager, and today we're going to talk about the installation of METALWORKS Clip-on ceilings. This is an interior ceiling only. You can have it in a couple different reveals where it could be flush like this, or it can have an 1/8 inch reveal, or it could have a 1/4 inch reveal. METALWORKS Clip-on is a downward accessible ceiling that installs on 15/16 Prelude grid. This is the back side of the panel, so this is actually a perforated panel. So it has fleece on it. Also, there is a protective film that comes on the panel that you have to peel off within 90 days of the manufacturing. Arrows show the direction of the panel. Always try to keep the arrows going in the same direction, or else you might be able to see a slight difference in the shading. There's 2 hooks on this panel. On one side, this is what's going to engage onto the grid, and there will be 2 opposite sides that will be unsupported, that have reverse tegulars on them. Hey, so now we've got the panels down. Let's talk about the suspension system for this. So this system has an actual C channel that's box molding that's used for this. So first of all, you have to determine your ceiling height, your finished ceiling height, and that will be the bottom of your box molding that has the hemmed edge on it. The nice thing about this box molding with this system is the grid will just rest on the top leg of the box molding, which will automatically dictate the height of your ceiling grid. This dimension from the grid down to the face of this is 1 inch. So the panels will be 1 inch down from the face of this grid. When you're doing your miters, please remember that you got a flat metal panel laying in there, so you do not want to overlap your miters. Make sure you do a double cut. You can either do a square butt, or you can actually do a miter like this shows here. The grid system being used is Armstrong Prelude 15/16 grid, and we're resting it right on the top leg of the wall of the box molding, resting it right on the top leg of the box molding, and then putting a screw down through the flange of the grid into the top leg of the box molding to secure it. All right, so now trim options for the METALWORKS Clip-on ceiling. They do have a formed trim option. Now, I don't have it available, but this is the torsion spring formed trim, exactly the same as the clip-on formed trim. The only difference would be the dimension right here. See, so torsion spring panel is 1.5 inches, clip-on is only 1 inch. So it would be a little smaller form trim, so then when you put your full-size clip-on panels in, it will flush out with the bottom of this. Once again, this is only for full-size panels. When you're doing your corners on this, you will have to miter them on the job site, and you'll have to try to put a clip on the inside to help kind of hold it together to keep that miter tight. So the way to attach the form trim is you have to picture frame grid around the perimeter of your cloud that you're going to be attaching the trim to. Typically, you wouldn't want to have grid at the perimeter for like when you're attaching axiom to it, but this form trim requires it. So basically, you're going to have your 15/16 grid wrapping around the cloud, and this is the clip that will get screw attached right through the web there, right where my finger is where you'd put a screw in. And then this trim slips over that. And then you just put a screw in through the top of the trim to secure it, as well as at the bottom. So the second way to do trim would be using our Axiom Vector trim, 6 inch. If you invert it, you have a nice 5/8 of an inch flange for resting your material on. For your grid connection, you'd want to use an ATC adjustable trim clip. By loosening the screw at the top, you can adjust this clip up to any dimension that you need. So when you're setting your 1 inch height for your panels, you adjust the clip according to that and just tighten the screw, and then you can attach your grid right to the flag on the clip. So now we got to start cutting the panels for the system. So I'm going to get my measurement just by taking my tape measure and sticking it toward the back side of the box molding and measuring just shy to the center of the Prelude grid. So I'll cut this one at 11 3/8. So basically, make sure you take in consideration of the direction of the panel, so you can make sure all the arrows are going the same direction. So I already marked I'm cutting this at 11 3/8. So it's nice with this protective film on there so I can mark it and not have to worry about putting extra marks on the panel. Now I'll use our Hilti metal cutting circular saw here to make the cut. Now, sometimes if the panel's real floppy as you're trying to cut it, you may want to build up the inside of it with some scrap wood 2x or something so it's not so floppy when you're cutting it. So now it's time to put in our cut borders in. A lot of times you like to get these corners done first. Makes installation a little bit easier so you're not hitting the panel next to it trying to get it in there. So basically you just want to take this. First thing is notice the screws coming through. Sometimes it may interfere with the top flange. Like this one, I actually had to do a little notch on the back side of the panel so it cleared that screw that was coming through the top flange of the box molding. So now I'll engage this panel into the box molding, slide it over, push it up into the grid until the spring catches, and that one's installed. So this one's a little harder to get in. So remember, like I said, you should do your corners first. It's always better to do the corners first. So I'm just going to take this panel back down real quick, just so I can make this install a little bit easier on me. A lot easier. And then put this panel in. If you're fighting it, look at a different combination to make it easier for you. So before you put in the full-size panels, you want to be able to put the spreader channels down in the box molding to hold down the cut metal panels where it meets the box molding. So taking a spreader channel, it's about 11 inches long, so you want to use one of these for every lineal feet of box molding for your project. You can just sit it there and just push it into the box mold. So in order to remove these panels, there are holes drilling on two opposite sides that match up with the clips for this panel. The other thing I didn't talk about is right next to the clip is actually a spring, and what this does is just apply pressure to the face of the grid to keep the panel seated so it's not different elevations when it's resting in the grid. So in order to remove it, you can use a paper clip by inserting it in the hole and pushing to disengage the clip off of the Prelude grid. In doing that, you also have to lift up the panel to depress the spring a little bit to release some of the tension so this clip would be able to flow freely. All right, now let's take a panel out for a real installation here. What you want to do is lift up the panel next to the panel you would like removed to expose the hole, insert the paper clip. As you're doing that, before you start pushing on the clip, you want to also push up the panel that you want released to get the tension off of it. Push the paper clip in to disengage the clip, and then it disengages from the grid. And do the same thing on the opposite side of the panel. And then the panel comes out of the ceiling. For the perforated panels, you have an optional infill that you can use. So you can either use a bag fiberglass to just put on the back side of there, or you can actually use a bio pad that would rest in the 2x2 Prelude grid system above. So let's talk about a lighting scenario. 2x2 ceiling grid above, you can do a 2x2 lay-in light fixture or a 2x4 lay-in light fixture, but then what do you do with the other half of the grid that's exposed and the depth? So we also have fixture frames. A fixture frame will actually attach to the grid on the back side of the flange, so you won't see the clip through here, and it actually has an angle piece here that actually trims all this out so you don't see the grid and you don't see the depth as much because of the way the piece is made. And what that does is now when the light sits inside here, the light, you'll have a nice clean trim appearance around your clip-on panels, which would be around your light fixture. Thank you for your time today to watch this video. If you would like to learn more about these Armstrong METALWORKS products, please visit armstrongceilings.com/metalworks.